Hi, everybody. How are you doing? This is Michelle Thorne, and thank you for attending the DAMES webinar series. Today's webinar is actually given by me, so that's why there's nobody else on the screen. So just a little bit about myself. So I am the founder of DAMES, Differently Abled Mothers Empowerment Society. And a part of what we do at DAMES is we provide self-care tools to moms who are raising special needs children. So that includes guided meditations, yoga, Pilates, fitness classes. We provide opportunities for parents to connect with each other with our monthly Zoom calls and with our communication tab, which is kind of like a Facebook within the DAMES app, and with things like this webinar series. So today what we are going to talk about is we're going to talk about surviving the holidays with your special needs kid and how things can maybe run a little bit more smoothly for you this holiday season. So holidays are super fun, right? I don't know about you, but usually this is how our holidays end up, right? Descending into like mass chaos, and our kids are all over the place. These are my two kids. That's my daughter Maria, who does have autism, and my son Jackson, who also has autism. And so, this is kind of like the typical, like, oh, we're going to take the nice holiday photo with our family and our kids, and everyone's going to sit down and look at the camera. And my husband and I have just embraced the fact that that's not true. And we take pictures like this because that's what they turn out like anyway. So we just kind of roll with it and embrace what is our kind of crazy life and our crazy children, and just how much fun we always have with each other, in a very different way, maybe. So our pictures are never like we're sitting and we're looking and we're having a good time and we're smiling all together. They're usually like this, and that's fine. So why are holidays so hard, especially for us with special needs children? So there's a lot of different things that we can look at. So first of all, there's a change in our routine, right? So all of a sudden the kids are off of school, they're home, their routine is different, they're sleeping in, maybe they're staying up later. There's a change of environment, so they're not at home usually for some of these holiday occasions. We're going to family members' houses, we're going to cousins. Um, there's this added expectation of affection, which is really awkward for our children, right? So they're expected to give hugs and look at people and maybe give kisses, which is just so not their thing. There's this expectation of a conversation, right, between your special needs child and maybe an adult that you're seeing, which can be very hard for our kids. Then there's also this expectation of conversation with you and the adults that you're seeing. So how are you? How are things going? And it's kind of hard to navigate that question. Do you tell them the whole truth? Well, sit back, let me have a 2-hour conversation with you about how my day has been and how it's going. Or do you do oh, it's fine, everything's great, because we kind of straddle this, do we give too much or do we just not give any at all? We also run into this unsolicited advice from family and friends, which, they're just trying to do the right thing and be helpful. And a lot of times it just kind of comes off wrong. And you're like, yeah, I know about gluten-free, dairy-free diets. Thank you. And then there's so many gatherings that we can attend, right? So there's a cookie party, there's a pumpkin carving, there's Thanksgiving, there's Christmas Eve, there's Christmas Day, and there's just a lot of stuff going on. And so it can be very overwhelming to navigate all of this during the holiday season with everything else that you're doing and with special needs children. So what we're going to do today is kind of try to tackle each one of these things and see if we can make those experiences better for you and for the people that you're going to see, and of course for your children, because we want to create holidays and events where everybody is feeling comfortable and everybody is getting along and interacting with each other in a positive way. So, how can we better prepare for family events? So, one thing that I like to do is I like to get ahead of the questions, right? So, people often don't know what we're going through. And so, I like to set up expectations for them. So, usually before an event, if we're going to a family gathering of people like we don't see often and we don't interact with often, and really have no clue about our children and their tendencies and what they like and don't like, I like to send an email before we get there with just some information so that they know a little bit more about how to interact with our children a little bit better. So usually it goes something like this, thank you for inviting us to come over to whatever holiday. We're really looking forward to spending time with you. Of course, you always want to start with the good, the thank you. We're excited to see you kind of introduction. So here are things that will help better prepare you for our visit, right? So again, you're just trying to set the expectation, tell them a little bit about what to expect so that nobody's kind of walking into this blind. Okay, so child A. So I'll use my son as an example as we go through this. So Jackson is doing very well at school. He loves, Matchbox cars, or he loves to read Curious George. If you want to talk to him about this topic, he could talk to you about it for hours. So often we have family members who really want to interact with our children, but they don't know how. And very often our kids have these like niche areas where they're really focused and they're really excited about, like Pokemon or cars or trains or different books and characters. And so what you can do is you can tell whoever you're visiting about that. And so that way they have something to talk to your child about. And when they're talking to your child is excited about engaging with them because they're talking about something that they like. So you're trying to set up so that there's this really cool, meaningful conversation and thing that happens between this adult who maybe your kid doesn't see very often and your child who's very shy and has a hard time communicating. But all of a sudden, this person is talking about their favorite thing. And so hopefully it fosters a relationship and a conversation about something that the kid really loves. Okay, so next, I always try to preface the people that I'm talking to about the eye contact thing, right? So children, especially children with autism, have a hard time making eye contact with people. And so it can be very difficult when we get into those situations, where people are like, well, I'm talking to this kid, but he's not looking at me. So is he even listening to what I'm saying? And what I would say is absolutely yes. Yes, that child is listening to you and is comprehending what you're talking about. And because your child is not looking at them, or, because my child's not looking at you, he's probably listening better than he would be if he was looking at you. So if you're having a conversation with my child, he might not look at you, but he's listening. So go ahead and keep talking. Um, the other thing I like to do is say, hey, my son Jackson really likes Matchbox cars, especially if it's a family that has kids. Do you guys have cars or trains? Is it okay if you put some of that stuff out for Jackson to play with? If you don't have any, is it okay and cool if I bring some for him? Again, you're trying to create an environment for your kid where they feel comfortable, they have toys that are familiar to them that they can play with when they get over there. Another thing that we get all the time, because my children are very picky eaters, is I feel like when you're going into these big holiday events like Thanksgiving and like Christmas, people go all out on the cooking end, right? Like you might have a host who's been cooking for 4 to 5 hours, cooking Christmas dinner, Thanksgiving dinner. And I don't ever want to feel like this really rude guest who comes in and starts cooking my kid a different meal, even though they've worked for 4 to 5 hours cooking theirs. Because if they don't know that your child is a very picky eater and eating those foods is very difficult for them, then they might have a hard time, um, wrapping their head around why this person all of a sudden took, chicken nuggets out of her bag and is warming them up in my microwave when I've spent 4 hours cooking this turkey. So I like to jump ahead of that. Again, getting in front of the questions and just saying, hey, Jackson still only prefers a couple of different foods, and we're going to bring them, so that he has something to eat. And, you can always add stuff in there like, don't worry, like, I'm going to eat all of the food that you prepare for us. And I really appreciate you going to those great lengths to cook us a nice dinner. But Jackson just might, eat his regular, typical things that he's comfortable with eating. So again, just kind of jumping ahead of that, like, oh, well, they're super rude and they didn't eat our food kind of thing. Another thing is that expectation of affection that we talked about earlier. So a lot of our kids have sensitivities to touch and affection with other people, especially strangers that they might not see very often. So again, get in front of it. So, hey, we're really excited to see you, but Jackson's very shy. Jackson's very sensitive to touch. And he might not want to give you a hug or give you a kiss, but Jackson loves to give high fives, So again, you're kind of like, okay, I don't want you to do this, but then you're giving them something that they can do, again, so that they can have a meaningful interaction with your child, right? That's what this is all about, is trying to make sure that everybody's kind of set up for success here. Now, why do we have to go through this length to do this? I've had a couple of special needs parents who are like, why do we have to do this? Shouldn't people just be nice to our kids and be understanding? And, in a beautiful, perfect world, yes, they should. They should just be kind and understanding. But people don't know what they don't know. And if you are not a special needs parent, and if you don't understand what all is happening in our lives, then they don't know any better. And so educate them, right? So get in front of it. So tell them what things are like and tell them how to have a good, meaningful relationship and a good, meaningful visit with your child, because they don't know and they're not going to know. They can't read your mind. So help them and tell them how things are and how to meaningfully interact with your child while they're there. The other thing I like to do about in this email is to kind of, explain a little bit about what I'm going through and what my life is like and what all I'm balancing on a daily basis. I feel like for people who don't see us very often and don't get why we're stressed, like they don't understand what we're dealing with every single day. And so, someone I just met had this conversation about spinning plates. So, as a mom, right, like those like old fashioned things where they set up all these plates and they try to keep them all spinning at the same time. So if you're just like a typical mom, you're going through your day, this is maybe what your day looks like, all the plates that you're keeping in mind, keeping in the air at the same time, right? So you're working, you're thinking about work stuff, you're thinking about your friends, how to interact with your friends, you're thinking about the kids and school, you're thinking maybe about other family stuff like grandpa and grandma and your aunts, your uncles, and keeping up with them. You're thinking about your kids, are your kids happy, healthy? Are they involved in sports? Are they getting to Girl Scouts? Are they getting to Boy Scouts? You're thinking about your husband. How's that relationship? Are you guys nurturing that relationship? Are you doing date nights? Right? So as a mom, like your plate is already very busy and you're keeping all of these plates spinning in the air, right? But when you become a special needs mom, there are so many other things that you have to keep spinning at the same time. So you're not only dealing with all of that stuff, but maybe you're working with specialists. You've got a list of medical specialists that you work with that have to see your kid and have to run tests on your kid. You're working on your insurance. Either you're battling your insurance for services, or you're trying to work with them to get more services for your kids. You're thinking about therapies for your kids. You're trying to find, schedule, arrange, get them to, get them from different therapies that they're involved in. I know a lot of special needs kids are mostly in at least three, three different therapies at the same time. And so you have to juggle and schedule and balance all of that. A lot of kids with special needs are in specialty diet, so they're gluten-free, dairy-free, or they're dye-free, or they're toxin-free, so no pesticides, and that consumes a lot of your time and energy. As a special needs mom, I think you worry a little bit more about your finances and how you're going to make enough money, earn enough money, save enough money so that if your kid can't work and hold down a job, that you have a means to support them the rest of their lives. If you're in Arizona, you're maybe battling with DDD, which is the state and federal funding for services for special needs children. You're arranging those monthly or the meetings that have to happen every 90 days. And that's a lot on your plate. And then for some of us, you're also doing advocacy and you're out in the community. I know I run like a mom's meetup and I run a support group meeting. And so you're juggling a lot of stuff. And I think that unless you're in this world, you don't realize how much stuff that you're juggling. And they don't, for sure. And so I think just explaining this to people is very helpful and kind of shows them why you're stressed maybe and what you're doing all the time, and maybe they can relate to you a little bit better knowing that you're keeping all of these things going at the same time, and that's why you're exhausted and you're tired, and maybe you're not even going to come to their holiday thing because all of these things are happening. Which again, you might want to communicate with them. If you can't make it to something and you're like, look, I can't show up, this might be a good way of explaining why you can't show up and why you're so busy and why you're so tired and why things are just not working out this holiday season. So let's talk about location. So location. If you can move holidays to your house, try to do so. So when my kids were first diagnosed, we did a lot of holiday events at my house because it was easier. The kids have all of their stuff here, all of their movies are here, all of their toys are here, their safe zones are here, their quiet zones are here. And if it's at your house and you're like, oh my God, how could I possibly host something and cook all the food? Don't, like, ask for help. So, okay, guys, like, I would love to have Christmas at my house, but could we do a potluck where, mom, can you maybe bring the turkey? Sister, can you maybe bring the salad? And get them involved and get them to help you. Hey, grandpa, like, do you want to come over a little early and hang out, help me set up some tableware and stuff, and get everybody involved so that they're helping you. Again, hopefully having a successful event because it's at your house. Or if you have to travel and you have to go somewhere else, bring their favorite items from home so that they feel like, things are comfy, cozy there. Bring stimming items, bring the bounce ball. We used to travel with Jackson's bouncy ball a lot because it was how he stimmed and got his energy out. And it kept him squirreled, right? So it kept him focused on one thing so that he could bounce and he could be doing his thing, and everybody else is talking and having the party, but he's happy, he's contained, he's doing his thing and he's not getting into trouble because he's like sitting there watching a movie, bouncing on his ball, having it the time of his life, Bring a scooter if there's lots of places for them to like motor around. Bring a swing. So they have those little teardrop swings that are like the camping swings. So basically all you need for that swing is a branch of a tree. So if you're going somewhere that they have trees in their backyard and you can hang one of these little teardrop swings from it, that might be a really good thing to do and give them some space and a place that's kind of like theirs. And again, it's swinging, it's that recentering of themselves. And that might help them have a better experience. You can also bring their favorite books, their favorite movies, so they have something to do while they're there, bringing their favorite toys. Of course, bringing their favorite foods is always a good thing. And another thing that we do sometimes is if we know it's going to be a family event where it's very loud and there's a lot of people, we'll try to bring like one of those little pop-up tents or one of those little canopy tents, like the little teepee tents with us and create like a quiet zone for them. So here in your tent, we put all lots of like comfy blankets and pillows, and that way, if everything starts to get too overwhelming for you, you can go to this quiet space and hang out and kind of, get away from it all if it gets too overwhelming. So it's another option. My husband was so funny because we used to pack all of this stuff when we went to family events, and our back of our car would be full, and he's like, really, Michelle? And I'm like, yeah, really. Like, if you want us to have a really good enjoyable event where we're not constantly chasing after our children or checking on our children or making sure that they're safe and they're not getting into trouble because they're like not properly squirreled doing something, then yeah, we're going to bring all of this stuff with us because it helps to keep them grounded so that we can also have a good, enjoyable experience where we can talk and connect with relatives. Because very often we would go to these parties and it was like, why did we go to that party? The whole entire party, all we did was run around and chase our kids. And nobody had a good time. Nobody talked to anybody else because that's all we were worried about. So by bringing all of these items, it really allowed us to have a better holiday experience because we could talk and interact with the relatives. The kids were having fun because they were engaging in the stuff that they like to do and engage with, and everybody had a good time. This is another thing that I love. In preparing for this talk, I was reading a couple of other people's blogs just to get some ideas. And I came across this and I was like, oh, this is gold. So having an escape plan and possibly bringing two cars. So I'm totally going to steal this and do this from now on. So Matt and I will just drive separately, show up separately. And that means that if one of our kids is having a meltdown, or if one of our kids is having a really bad day, one of us can leave and take that kid home and get them out of that environment because obviously they're not having fun. And if they're not having fun, we are not having fun, and the guests are not having fun, and the company is not having fun, right? So if we can have a way to remove that child, and yes, that means one of us will have to leave, but one of us will just have to leave and have holiday with that child, doing something that we can enjoy with them. But I loved this. So having an escape plan so that if you need to leave and get that kid out of there for a little while, then you have the opportunity to do that. Okay, so traditions. Traditions are made to be broken, right? We all have family traditions, and traditions are not set in stone. They have probably been happening in the families for years, but they started at one point, right? And you can stop them and you can alter them and you can shape them so that everybody is having a good experience around you. And that means that you're going to have to ask your family to be flexible about traditions during the holiday season. So you don't have to set up a tree. Honestly, I don't think we're setting up a tree this year. We have this new puppy who's destroying everything. We have our children who have actively started like taking things from places and walking around the house with them. So I'm sure if there are ornaments on the tree, they're going to be everywhere. We are probably not going to set up lights this year. We might not even wrap presents and put them under the tree. My daughter has really gotten into unwrapping presents. So I feel like if I wrap anything and put them under the tree, she is probably going to unwrap everything all the time because it's just a lot of fun for her. So I'm probably not going to have a tree. I'm probably not going to set up presents underneath the tree because those things are just not fitting into our life right now. And that's fine. And I'd rather not do those things and have, an okay, chill time leading up to Christmas than do those things and have a horrible time finding ornaments, finding out our dog destroyed the tree, finding out Maria's unwrapped another present and yelling at her. I'd rather just avoid it and not do it. And so feel free to do that too. Um, Taking times unwrapping Christmas presents. So our family tradition has always been on Christmas Eve that we would sit around in a circle and everybody would get their presents passed out. And we would go around youngest to oldest, one at a time, unwrapping presents. So as our families grew, this started taking longer and longer to do, right? I think last year it took us like 2 hours to unwrap all the presents. And I told my mom at the end, I said, we're going to have to break up this tradition and we're going to have to alter it. I go, because what was happening is, everybody is sitting for 2 hours unwrapping presents. So my children then, Maria now loves unwrapping presents, but then my children did not care. They did not want to unwrap presents. They did not want to sit in that room. They did not care what everybody else got. They were like, meh, on the gifts that they got. So what I've told my mom is I'm like, we're going to have to alter this tradition. And what I'd like to do, giving her suggestions, what I'd like to do is I'd like for all of the kids to unwrap the presents first, pick a present that they can unwrap and play with, and then let them go into the other room and play with their new toys. And that way, they've unwrapped all their gifts at once, hopefully maybe taking 20, 30 minutes, right? Unwrap everything. Let's ooh and ah, and let's get all of that done. And then they have a new toy that they can then go play with. So while they're playing with their toy, the rest of the family can kind of do our one at a time opening presents, oohing and ahhing, and appreciating the gifts that everybody's given. So that's probably what's going to happen this year. And it took a little convincing of my family, but they realized and they recognized that, yeah, that wasn't really fun for anybody, having to find my kids, drag them back to the room, give them a present, help them open the present, and then just kind of being like, nah, cool, thanks. I'm going to go back to my movie in the other room. So feel free to have those open and honest conversations with your family about what traditions are working and what traditions are just not working. My sister, I think, is going to have a cookie decorating party. And I was like, look, we might show up. And if we show up, my kids might or might not decorate cookies while we're there. So I'm just letting you know that if they're there, they might just go play and do their own thing. And, just so you know that I'm sorry if they don't sit down and participate in cookie decorating. Setting up expectations so that there's not oh my God, her kids were so rude. They came and they didn't decorate any cookies, So again, just trying to get ahead of it. And the other thing is you don't have to attend all of these events that are going on. You can say, no, I can't make it. And this is why, and it's okay. So how do we prepare our children for these events? So like we said earlier, right, we're going to try to make the location comfy cozy, but getting our kids out of that routine is really, really hard. And so how do we set them up for success when it comes to routines? So social stories are always really great ways to do this. And you can create your own if you have time and energy and you want to put that effort into it, and create a social story about, on Christmas Day, we're going to drive to Grandma and Grandpa's house. We're going to play games and you can watch movies and you're going to see, your grandpa and your grandma and your cousin Nick. And, this is what it's going to look like. And then we're all going to sit down and have dinner. And then after that, we're going to open presents and then we're going to have dessert. And again, so you're giving them their routine that they're going to go through, and maybe they listen to it for a week or 2 weeks before the event. And that way, when they get there, they know what to expect. Now, if you don't have time to create your own social story, you can always borrow from these. So I'm a big fan of, you don't always have to reinvent the wheel. And here are some links to a couple of different sites that have different social stories on them. So Christmas, Hanukkah, Thanksgiving, and you can kind of print these out. And again, just reading over them with their kids so that they know what to expect when you get there. Another thing you can do is have them practice opening gifts and see if they have a preference for how gifts are wrapped. So I know some of our children have very difficult time with fine motor skills. So your child might not be able to unwrap a wrapped gift, right? And if they're sitting around and there are 20 wrapped gifts around them, I don't know, we go crazy. If there are that many wrapped gifts around them, that might be really overwhelming and frustrating that they can't open those presents. So take some time and, get your therapist involved, get the OT people involved, get your ABA therapist involved. Hey, today I wrapped, just stuff from their closet, and I wrapped some with wrapping paper and I wrapped some maybe with tissue. Tissue paper might be an easier thing for them to rip and unwrap than regular wrapping paper. Or I put some things in a box with tissue paper in it and just have them practice and see which one they prefer. And tell your family, like, hey, if you're going to get Jackson something for Christmas, please don't wrap it with traditional wrapping paper. Throw it in a box, put tissue in it, because that way he's going to enjoy the opening gift process and it's not going to be a frustration for him. The other thing that I thought was interesting that I heard somebody say was that not only do they not wrap the presents, right? They put them in a bag with tissue paper, but they also open the present completely out of its packaging and just put it in the bag. So that if you have a child who really likes to play with their toys once they get them, it's already open for them, right? So if you're busy and all of these things are happening and a lot of people are opening presents and people are waiting for you to go to the next one or whatever, you could have your kid unwrap a present and the present is already open inside the bag and then they can start playing with it right away. I thought that was really kind of a cool idea, and I might actually do that for my daughter because she is into gifts this year. She is into like getting things, but she wants to play with them right away. So I think for a couple of gifts, I might just unwrap them and put them in the bag. And that way we're not all opening presents and then opening toys at the same time. The toys are already open and it cuts one less step out of the things that we're doing to try to make things move along efficiently and avoid the meltdowns that happen if you don't do things fast enough. You know how some of our kids are. I know mine are like that. Reviewing family members, right? So if they're going to see people they haven't seen a lot, you can always make little flashcards for them. And again, get your therapist involved. Like, hey, ABA therapy, like today I really want us to go over like family members and show them people who are going to be coming to the event. So, here's a cute little picture of grandma, and this is what grandma looks like. And grandma's mommy's mom, and grandpa's gonna be there. Yeah, this is what grandpa looks like. And, grandpa's gonna be there. And also maybe telling your children social stories about their family members that they're going to see. So if you have a child who maybe their enthusiasm, the thing that they're really excited about is dogs, right? Maybe you get pictures of the animals that grandparents have, like, oh, like grandma's coming and did you know grandma has this kind of dog? And then maybe that way these kids are like, oh, that's cool. Like grandma has dogs. I love dogs. Maybe I can talk to grandma about dogs. So you're, again, setting up situations with the adults on the front end, right? Trying to prime them with how they can have meaningful conversations with your kids. But then on this end, you're also priming your children so that they can have meaningful conversations with the people who are coming to the party. And that hopefully will create some really good moments where everybody is kind of connecting with each other on that level. And that's what you're really wanting, right? Another thing I see that happens all the time is we get into these social situations where there are these expectations put on our children that are not maybe there in everyday life. So one example is if you're expecting this appropriate behavior of your child sitting and eating Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner with the family at the table, and they do not do that at home, please do not expect them to do it properly in that setting, because they're going to be at a strange place, at a strange table, with strange people, with strange food on their plate. And that is not going to go well for you if they're not already practiced at sitting at a table, eating dinner with the family. So if you have this expectation of your child that they're going to sit with you at Thanksgiving, they're going to sit with you at Christmas, then I would suggest that you try and you start them doing that like a week or two before so that they're used to sitting and eating properly with you. And then again, if you can create a quiet space in the location that you're going to try to do it. So maybe it's a bedroom, maybe you bring a pop-up tent and blankets and pillows and something that is their like little go-to place that they can go and chill out and kind of relax from everything that's overwhelming them. Okay, so that kind of covered some of the holiday stuff. And now we're just going to talk a little bit about how to host a successful birthday party. So I'm actually throwing one on Saturday for both of my kids. And these are kind of some of the things that we do to make sure that they're successful. So first of all, you want to get people there, right? Like you want to have people show up for your kid's birthday party. And the best thing that I can tell you as a parent is to be a part of your tribe and to form bonds with parents that are like you, that have kids that are your kids' age, and that understand what you're going through, right? So you want to know who those parents are, and you want them to know your kids. And that way, there's a little more buy in of going and hanging out with you guys. Right, so you want to invite their classmates and try throughout the year to get to know the classmates and the classmates' parents. Again, building those relationships around your children. Invite the families of the people that you go to support group with and you go to therapy with, like the therapy centers with. So, like, I run a mom's meetup, I run a support group, I have therapy centers that I go to with my kids. So people, parents that I've built bonds with at those different places, I'll invite. You know, they might not be a part of my kids' lives, but they have children my kids' age. They know our situation. You know, we know their situation, and we all kind of can just come together and hang out and celebrate birthdays together. Of course, you want to invite your family because most likely they're going to show up. Invite your friends. If you have friends who have kids, your kids' age, invite them over. And also maybe think about doing dual parties with a friend. That's guaranteed one friend that's going to be there at that party, right? If you do a joint party together. So my kids, their birthdays are in November. My nephew, his birthday was in December, is in December. And so we, for a long time, just did a birthday party with all three of them because it's the holidays and it's easier to go to one party than to try to go to three. So this year, we're still doing a joint party with Maria, my daughter, and with Jackson, my son. They're going to have a joint birthday party because it's easier. It's a guaranteed to get more kids there. And you know, it's a lot less work on our end too if we're co-hosting with somebody and can share those responsibilities with somebody. For me, it's easier because now I have to throw one party, I don't have to throw two. So trying to make sure that, you know, it's a good experience for them, but also for you too, because you're spinning all your plates, right? And telling them what they're gonna, you know, what's gonna be at the party to entice people to come. So we always have a bounce house, we always have pizza, we always have cupcakes, and we tell them early. We make sure we invite people at least a month ahead of time, and we remind them often. We know that the population of people that we invite to our parties is very busy, right? We're all spinning our plates, and we're trying to keep things going, and so we do always try to remind them and be like, hey, like 3 weeks out, oh my God, we're so excited. We just ordered the bounce house. We can't wait to spend time with you and your family. And we're hoping you guys are going to come, you know, maybe a week before. Hey, we're looking to order the pizza, trying to get that order in. You know, if you'll let us know if you're coming, that would be great. So again, you're reminding them, but they're not like, hey, you didn't RSVP yet, like what's going on, right? But it's more like, oh my gosh, we're so excited to hang out with you. You know, please let us know if you're coming, right? Because you are genuinely excited about hanging out with these people and having them at your house and having them around your child. And so you always want to make sure that when you're inviting people and reminding people that you're bringing that kind of energy to it. You want to check for food allergies and specifics. So some of our kids, or if you know your population, you might want to provide alternative foods. So in the Autism Society and the autism community, we have a lot of children who are gluten-free, dairy-free. And so at our birthday party that we're throwing, we'll make sure to have gluten-free and dairy-free options for kids that are on that kind of specialty diet, right? So we're gonna have lots of fruits, lots of vegetables. My mom is making this little noodle dish with gluten-free noodles, so we're gonna try to make sure that we can accommodate as many people as we can. Again, you wanna make sure your setting is right, that the music is either off or very low. You want to put out toys that your child is okay with sharing. Right? Like my daughter loves her baby dolls, but they are her baby dolls. Like that is a no-go for her. She does not like sharing those baby dolls with anybody. Those are hers. Those are her baby dolls. So when we have people over, we hide the baby dolls. Like the baby dolls get hidden away so that there are no fights about toys. So we will hide toys that we know that are particular to our kids and that are special to them. And we will bring out and put out toys places for kids to play with, because we don't want them searching around the house trying to find stuff to do. Because our population gets squirreled a lot, right? Like they like to look, they like to interact and touch and see everything. So we meaningfully put toys out in different locations so that they can, go into the living room and, oh, there's, little people set up in there. Or then they can go into Jackson's room. We have some match car stuff set up in there. And so that they have stuff to play with and interact with. They're not getting in trouble. They're not getting stuff out. They have stuff out there that they can play with. That's no problem at all whatsoever. Create a quiet room and a quiet space for kids that might need it. Most of our party stuff happens on this side of our house, or on one side of the house, outside and in this corner. And so in the opposite corner of our house, like where my daughter's bedroom is, we'll make that a quiet zone and a quiet space. And that way, if kids are getting overwhelmed with the bounce house, with maybe the music or the noise of the kids playing outside, they can go to her room, which is on the quieter end of the house, and kind of have a little downtime and play with her toys that we've taken out and put out on purpose for them to play with. Okay, singing songs. I don't know about you, but I absolutely hate getting the birthday song sung to me. I am so super shy when it comes to being out in public. I do not want attention drawn to me. And so my family knows as soon as we sit down and we're like, it's a birthday, no songs, no songs. Like Michelle doesn't want to be sung to ever. I will like curl up and hide. And so if your child is the same way, skip the dang song. Let them eat cake, don't worry about it. Just put the cake out, let everybody sit and eat. Now, my daughter is like this little spotlight child, so we will sing her a song and she will enjoy every single minute of it. My son could not care less. We will just give him the cupcake and be like, here, go to town, kiddo. So again, this is all about creating that nice environment for your child. It's their birthday party. Let them do what is going to make them happy. If they don't want to eat or they don't want to sit and be sung to, don't make them sit and be sung to. It's their day. I think a lot of times as parents, we do stuff for us because that's what our expectation is, and that's what our past was like. And we have to really alter things and make sure that we're doing it for them and we're creating good, happy, healthy memories for our children, because that's what we want, right? We want them to have like these happy memories of birthdays where nobody made them sit and be sung to, which I would have loved growing up. So, kind of feel out your kid and what they like and what they don't like. And if you don't sing them the song, don't sing them the song. It's totally fine. They will love you for it. Trust me. Oh, presents. Okay, opening presents at birthday parties is actually a no-go for us. And I'll tell you why. So when we get gifts at the birthday party, we put them in the front room and we leave them there. And once all of the guests leave and it's like the core family is left, then we will have the kids open the presents. We will write them down. If it's family members from out of town, we might videotape them opening the presents and send that to them as a thank you, and make sure that they know that their gift is appreciated and was opened. Everybody else, we will write down what we got and write the thank you notes, of course. But we don't open gifts at birthday parties for a lot of reasons. Because, first of all, I've told you, my kids usually have never cared about opening gifts. Sometimes they have a hard time with it. Sometimes their reaction when they open their presents isn't like that. Like, I love watching some little kids open presents and they open them. They're like, oh my God, like I wanted this Barbie. It's like the best thing. And it was on my list and you got it for me. Like, those are just not my children. And so I don't want my kids to have to, first of all, sit for a long period of time and open presents, and then not give the person who gave them that present that reaction of gratitude, right? Because very often my kids don't have that expression of gratitude when they open presents. Will they play with that gift later? Absolutely. They will love the gifts. They will play with the gifts. But when they open their presents, it's usually like awesome, thanks. Like, is there another one I have to open right now? The other thing is, if you're thinking about our population and the kids that we've invited to these parties, most likely they're not going to want to sit for a long period of time and watch other kids open presents. And then when the kids open presents, they might want to play with that present. And then you have kids melting down because they can't play with a present that was just opened, so we just avoid it. We just completely avoid it. We get the gifts. If like my grandparents come and they want to see Jackson open the present, then we might squirrel them off to the side, have Jackson open the present in front of them, thank them for coming, and then they're on their merry way. But we don't open, generally as a rule of thumb, we don't open the presents in front of our kids for all of those reasons. And it makes it a little bit nicer because, again, there's not like everybody's sitting for a long period of time opening presents. There's not that disappointment if my kids don't get excited about opening your present. And then my kids aren't frustrated that they have to sit, open presents, and not immediately open them and play with them. So all of those things get avoided by just not opening the presents in the presence of your guests. So it's what we do. It's probably what we will always do. If you have a child that's like an oh my God child and you want to share that reaction with everybody, by all means open presents. If your kids are like my kids and they could care less, maybe you just don't open presents until everybody leaves, and that's totally okay to do it that way. So earlier I talked about putting away everything that is precious to your kid, but I also want you to do the same thing. Put away things that are precious to you. Okay, so you want, when these families come into your home, you want them to feel at home inside your house. And you want them to not have to hover over your children, their children while they're here, right? So our house, we have 2 kids with autism. Anything that was going to be broken has probably already been broken, right? And so like if you look around our house, like literally like we have picture frames that are out that have no glass in them, right? Because at some point that glass has been broken. And honestly now, when we get picture frames, we take the glass out and we put the picture up without any glass in it. Because we know our kids are going to break things. And so if you have a lot of knick-knacky things, if you have a lot of picture frames, if you have a lot of stuff that little kids like to play with, but you don't want them to play with them, clear them out. Just get rid of them. Avoid that whole situation. Put away everything that is precious to you, because you want those parents, when they come to your door and when they come in your house, to be able to let their guards down. Last year at Jackson's birthday party, it was really kind of funny to see the parents evolve in their emotional state as they hung around the house a little bit longer. So as they entered the house, they were all very nervous. They were hovering around their kid. They were making sure their kid wasn't getting into something that they shouldn't be, and Matt and I are like, hey, how you doing? You want some wine? Do you want something to drink? Just relax, it's fine. And it was just amazing to see them as they progressed through the day, relax, like sit back, like to know they didn't have to worry about what their child was getting into because we purposely put stuff out that they could play with. We don't care. Play with those toys. That's why they're there. We put away all of the stuff that they could damage so that the parents could just kind of relax and know that their kid is fine. They're playing with toys. They're not going to get into any trouble at our house. Our house is open. They can play with whatever they find and it's totally cool. But we've set it up that way, right? So that we can go with the flow, we could just relax and ease into it. And, again, just that releasing of like expectations of how things you feel like things are going to go. If your kid is having fun and, maybe he doesn't want to get out of the bounce house to do the birthday cupcake thing, then let him stay in the bounce house. He's having the best day of his life. Let him stay in there. Let him rock it out. It's totally fine. Another thing we can do, so getting back to specialty events with our kids. So Autism Society of Greater Phoenix every year in Arizona puts on events called Sensitive Santa events. And so what these are is they allow your child to visit Santa Claus without having to go to the mall and wait in line. I mean, our children just are not going to do that, right? So at Sensitive Santa events, what they do is you register for a time that your kid goes to see Santa. And that way you show up. We'll have crafts and booths and stuff for your kid to do. They're not waiting in line, they're waiting, but maybe they're decorating an ornament or they're coloring a picture or they're playing with Legos. So they're being active while they wait to go and see Santa. And then they can go and see Santa and have their time with them, but they're not exhausted, overwhelmed, that they've just waited in line for half an hour to sit on some guy's lap that they don't know and are not going to probably talk to. So again, we're trying to make it so it's a good experience for the kids. Other things, like when you want to do these North Pole experiences, call them. Ask them, do you make special accommodations for special needs children? And a lot of times they do. Another thing you can do is look and research your community to see if there are groups that actually do experiences for special needs kids. So Civitan in Arizona is this amazing organization that run specialty camps throughout the year for kids with special needs. And the kicker that I think is like phenomenal is that you can actually, if you're in DDD and you get state and federal funding and you have respite and you use respite hours, you can use respite hours to pay for these camps. How awesome is that? So your kids can go and have like these amazing experiences and it didn't cost you a dime. And they're experts and they're surrounded by other kids like them and they're all going through and having this experience that is geared towards them, which I just think is fantastic. So this is like the Civitan camp schedule. I can send it out along with this video at the end so you can see what these resources are, but they're really fantastic. The last thing I want to say, I think I'm kind of running out of time, is that you can say no to any events. Mama, you have that right. If you're overwhelmed, if you know things are not going to go well, we've had things happen where we are all set to go to an event and Jackson is having a bad day or Maria is having a bad day. And you're like, oh, this is just not going to go well. Then don't do it. Don't put yourself in that situation where you're going to have a meltdown, you're going to have a bad day. So if that means you reset and you do a quick Christmas thing at your house and it's just you and your family, then that's awesome. Build experiences and build holidays so that they're exciting for you and for your family. So you have the right to say no. So please make sure that that is a part of your thought process as you enter the holiday season. You don't have to go to everything. And so really this whole talk is just about finding ways to enjoy the holiday with your family. Like you want it to feel like this, right? Like when you were young, before you had kids and you're like, oh, it's just so carefree and I can go and everything is relaxing. And that's the kind of environment you want to build. And if you're priming people at this end and you're setting expectations of how to have good, meaningful conversations with your kids, how to set up the environment so that your kids can be successful, and then you're working with your kids on this end too to make sure that they can, rise to those expectations that they have, that you have of them for those events. They know what to expect because you've done social stories. You've primed them with really great things to talk with grandpa or grandma about. Hopefully everybody will have a very good experience together. And that's kind of it. That is the end of like the tips and tricks of having a good holiday experience with your kids.